So usual sort of format, I'll start with some questions and then we'll throw it open to you guys. Well, let me start by asking all of you what you kind of made of this script when you first picked it up and this story. Were any of you familiar with this incident before you had the offer?
I'll say that a few of us had the opportunity to actually do a couple of table reads for this project before we actually went into production. And not only was it eye-opening to find out about a time in history that, for one reason or another, we were never taught this in school. But also the fact that, you know, not only were we learning as we were doing the table read, but the fact that throughout all of our lives, this isn't required learning. In a city like Detroit, of all places, that economically and socially means so much to the fabric of, you know, what we feel is true America, you know, and I think that more than anything is what kind of really raised the bar as far as how serious, you know, our jobs were to bring this story to life and to show something that has not been discussed in school during Black History Month, which, you know, is something that where I learned most of my Black history was during Black History Month. For some reason, it was swept under the rug.
Well, John, maybe I'll ask you, where do you begin kind of figuring out how to play this film? I mean, do you do a lot of independent research as well? Is it all in the script that Mark and Kathryn provide?
I think it's a combination of a few things. Obviously, there's independent research, but at the same time, there's researching with Kathryn and within the process. I actually got to speak to Melvin Dismukes in real life, and we had a few conversations before I started shooting, and that was many of the combinations and the blueprint for the character that you see in the movie.
Well, Will, your character is kind of an amalgam, or tell me about him.
Yeah, I think an amalgam is a perfectly apt way of describing a composition. Actually, 3 police officers who were present at the Algiers motel and ultimately responsible for the brutalization of the guests and the death of those men. As I say, 2 of the individuals are actually deceased, but one of those individuals that makes up my character is still alive and never faced any charges.
Was it helpful? I mean, you know, John, you talked about meeting the real Dismukes. Was it helpful for anyone else? Tyler, did you meet any of the real people involved?
Julie, who was one of the girls who was in the incident, was on set the entire time, pretty much, and that was really great. To have somebody who can kind of check the tone and make sure we were hitting that. Yeah, it made it that much, you know, it made it really difficult, this situation easier. But easier is kind of the wrong word here, because also you're very aware of she's watching these things happen in real time, and it's probably very triggering for her. So if anything, I think it just it raised the bar another notch to be able to sit there and perform something that's in front of the person whose life this was.
And that's what about you? I mean, John Conyers is still very, very much alive and very active in politics. Did you get a chance to meet him?
You know, that was a challenge, you know, because I didn't want to step over Kathryn's toes and her process, whatever that may be. I requested to meet with him several times, and for one reason or another, you know, he's a very busy man. They call him the Lion of the Senate because he's still fighting the good fight. I didn't have an opportunity to meet him prior to the film, but I will say that one of my best moments was to meet his son and his wife the weekend of the premiere. And they had already screened the film. And to have his wife look at me eye to eye and say, "You got him." That right there, that was my moment. I was good. After that, I went to the premiere, I was sitting back, because the entire city of Detroit loves John Conyers. Like, he is literally on a first name basis with half of the people that were at the Ford Theater that night. You know, he's just one of those politicians that's just, he'll be in a coffee shop, you know, or at a local restaurant. And so when it's someone who's that still present in the lives of you know, Detroit and the city that we named the film after, at least for me, it was important to capture him as accurately as possible. And we had an opportunity to screen the film on Capitol Hill. A lot of his fellow senators and congressmen came out. Unfortunately, not as many as we would have liked. But we really feel like it's important for them to see this as well, to, whatever that we can all do together as a community, including our politicians that write policy, to keep this from ever happening again in history. But it was a good moment because he got to watch it. And speaking to his son, he said that he's never seen him, politicians, they're known for being very vocal and speaking a lot. He said he hadn't seen him that quiet in many, many years. So the film really touched him. And he said, that's exactly what happened.
Well, I'm sure this audience, having just seen the film, can testify to the intensity of some of the scenes depicted. I wonder if I can ask about, the experience of shooting these scenes. What kind of environment Kathryn creates, how difficult that is to deal with, because there's some real darkness for all of you to get to in this film.
Yeah, I think the sequence that would have been the most challenging was the Algiers Motel sequence, which was a 3-week shoot, and it was back to back for everybody. I mean, we always obviously they're having to orchestrate the madness of that night, and Algie and the other boys were on the wall, and it just required a certain level of commitment on a day-to-day. And I think Kathryn she creates a set that amps that up and supports that. As an actor, you always feel comfortable and always feel ready on a Kathryn Bigelow set because the environment is catered towards your performance, and so the crew are most of the time silent and have to adjust sometimes uncomfortably for the actors, and so that's something that she amped up on set, which was good.
No, actually, I would totally just piggyback on that and say that often, one thing I felt I neglected personally, talking about this movie, is just how much we owe to the crew. We're fortunate in the sense, and it may be the case for people in the audience, that we get to see, how it's made, and really, we have to give up so much of what we capture on screen, to the crew, and just how they embedded themselves in the scenery, so that, camera consciousness wasn't something we had to even contend with at times. There were often occasions where we couldn't see where the camera was, and that for an actor is such an amazing opportunity because it makes it immersive for us, and I hope is in turn it makes it, immersive for the viewers.
Well, there are moments in this that, they feel like, the camera is kind of, a documentary camera, this is actually taking place and being captured. I wonder, how long are these scenes running for? Are you doing these big, long kind of...
You should take that one now.
So one thing that I learned very quickly, and I'm sure that my fellow castmates can attest to, is that you're not going to hear the word cut very often on a Kathryn Bigelow set. In a lot of situations, it can be a take can be uncomfortably long because we're used to learning our characters and building the arcs and knowing where we are in the script and what came before and what comes after, and measuring our performances based on that to the best of our ability to be able to tell a complete story. But when we reach the end of whatever scene we're doing, the scene keeps going. And it's interesting because, doing a bunch of these, it's funny to hear how, other actors have had the same experience, that they've witnessed a lot of what made the movie was after the pages had ended, the improv moments that continue to happen. In the riot scene, most of the moments that you see here are moments where, I had to figure it out. I didn't hear cut. I got to keep going. The crowd is getting angrier and angrier, louder and louder. They're starting to shake the car, and those moments are probably the more realist moments of the performance because you don't know what's going on, and that kind of level of insecurity of what should I do next, and am I allowed to improv? Am I going to piss her off? Am I going to get fired? But it comes off as more than likely probably what a person would feel if they're trying to stop a riot from happening, and you don't know if you're gonna live one moment to the next. So it was a very interesting way of pulling some very authentic performances. I don't know if anybody else wants to share.
We definitely had that kicking off the riots that night. You know, it was really interesting that Kathryn had kind of like gotten everybody together, including background actors and everything. So well, this has to start it. This has to go from a chill affair to a riot in the city. And I'm just going to let you guys kind of play with that and find that. And that's just what it was. You know, at one point, I think it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you became very acutely aware that nobody was acting anymore. That is just what it was. I mean, there was the first note, there was somebody taking a nightstick from a cop, and running back and forth like it was a battle flag. It was a lot. But that's where it had to go. And what was really great is there were a lot of background actors who were older in age and could remember this time. And you saw over time that began to come out. And that frustration finally having a place to live and to breathe and for them to accurately portray. But yeah, in that moment, I think, you know, in those scenes, maybe I ended up getting out one line that was actually scripted. And the rest of it was just, you know, interacting with those around me. And that's what Kathryn does. Kathryn is an incredible director because she, a lot of times grasps something a lot of directors miss, which is to trust your actors. And I've never worked on anything, bar none, that has this much trust in it. Never.
Well, let's open this up to the audience then. Do we have a question right here? There you go.
You're right, Will.
My name is Pierre. I'm an agent, also very involved with the Recording Academy. A big supporting actor, I think, in this film, and that brings a little bit of joy, which is so dramatic, is Motown. So I'm interested to find out how Motown was brought in, including the dramatics. How was that? I don't know if you guys were part of that negotiating process, but it's so important in the film, and Motown was starting to become so big at that time. I'd like for maybe you guys talk a little bit about that.
I just remember that being a massive talking point for Kathryn. We had a discussion about the movie, not only for obviously the aesthetics of it, obviously giving it some lightness to the film, but the representation of that time within the music. And also racially, Motown was the one thing that brought everybody together. Hence why, you know, the Algiers Motel, it was a multi-diverse environment. And so that stood as a symbolism for that. But also to do with, and I wish Algie was here to speak for himself, but Algie's character and his, you know, massive influence with the dramatics and their involvement in this whole horrific event. And that was something that was entwined in the culture and the story. And it was fantastic anyway, because we had actually got the opportunity to premiere the movie at the Fox Theatre. And we went there to screen the film with loads of people from Detroit. And that all, it just brings the people in and it feels like home. And it's just a pivotal part of this story and process.
Anybody else? Yeah, I can see one there.
As an actor who primarily does comedy, when I look at a script and I'm preparing, a lot of it's in the writing, right? Comedy, it's pretty musical. It's what you guys did brilliantly was capture so much in between the lines. There was so much that I felt happen when you weren't speaking, and I'm wondering what that process was. What kind of preparation can you do for that when you're sitting at home reading a script, when you're sitting at a table with a bottle of water, sitting across from someone reading, what the preparation for those moments was like, if that makes sense?
100%. I think in some ways, one, I guess I should get context. No one was sitting at home with a script. We didn't have one. Nobody had scripts. So, throw that part out.
Some didn't even have sides.
Yeah, some didn't even have sides. But yeah, again, it kind of speaks to Kathryn's style. There's no ways to prepare naturally in doing the work of the times and making sure that you get blended into these times as much as possible. But one great thing that Kathryn also did was create the space to just submerge at some point, like, I was talking about, you have a 10-minute take and you're out of things on the page. You just have, you have no other choice but to submerge. And that's where I think this film rests really well, is that it seems that you had a group of actors who were willing to submerge and didn't have any problem with that and actually preferred that. But as far as the threat goes, it's one of those situations, at least in my opinion, I can't speak for anybody else, but where a lot of my stuff wasn't on the page. The only prep is being okay with a lack of prep. And being there to be there for whatever this is. And however this goes, you're going to kind of ride that energy.
If I can also jump in, one of the things that I learned from doing a bunch of these right before the film premiered was listening to some of the actors that were in the Algiers motel scene and learning that the reason why they didn't get the script, the whole reason why they didn't get the script was because Kathryn didn't want them to know who was going to die and when they were going to die. So every performance was 100% authentic because you had to live in that moment and not know what's going to happen to my character and when. You know, so they found out on the day, in the moment, that this is when your life is about to end. Very similar to real life. I mean, you know, most people I would think who leave the house and unfortunate situations happen that they didn't know they were going to happen when they kissed their relatives or their loved ones goodbye. And that's something that, you know, for me it stood out as just a magical way of getting authenticity. Just the search for authenticity was there in every single scene and every character that she showed in this film.
Any other questions?
Of what we see on the screen, what percentage would you say, you know, in this final cut was improvised then? Like,
I've never been good with maths, but I take a shot. Like 112%. You know, truthfully, that's kind of like a good question, but I would say, at least for the Algiers Motel, I would say 65% of it was scripted.
But it's not as if it's a very interesting process because you film the scene that is scripted, right. You do that, and then you just continue from that scene. So it's not as if that scene is replaced by a completely different improv. You still do the scripted scene, but within that, she doesn't say cut. So once the lines are done and the script is done, the scene still goes, and whatever you feel, however you feel in the moment, you're allowed to just do it. You can go wherever you want. There is no marks. There's no restrictions. And so in that's the editing is strange because I remember watching the film and not remembering half of the stuff I've done in there. Yeah, like, for sure. I remember doing that. Because every take there's also a different way of doing it. She would come and say, just give me something that's yours, you know, just give me a take for yourself, just do one. And you would, and that's where she took a lot of the magic from.
because the scenes are so long though, does that mean we do less takes because so much of it is improvised?
Yes, but certain scenes we went through it a good few times, especially the Algiers motel sequence.
It's interesting, she had Kathryn has brilliant at discretion. Because there were certain things that we shot all night, like we would shoot one scene all night or something like that, right? She's a master at finding what it needs. So the great thing is, you know, for Will, Laz, and I, we had all kind of table read it together. For us to get another opportunity to look at it at some point. But after that, you realize the script was so tight that anything on the back end of it, once we got through the scene, was you were already in the place that you needed to be. We would not have not been able to do that if the script was tight. That's the thing. By no means were we playing in here and trying to fix anything. No, she just let the tape run out. We then found moments because we had the script to build on. And I think that anything is more of that. It's not any kind of replacement. It was literally just, we have the strongest foundation we can have possible with this. and here are some authentic moments that we as actors feel in this moment.
Yeah.
What was her casting process? You didn't have the script, you didn't have the sides. How did she cast?
We kind of all had sort of different, experiences with it, because the nature of our roles, our respective roles, kind of lended themselves to different processes. Personally, it was a sort of 3-month trial by fire, and I very lucky. Thank you. And it was lengthy, and I think something that's never lost on Kathryn is the responsibility that comes with playing these roles, because we were telling real stories, we were aiming to do, I think, at least justice to a story involving people who never really got justice and never had their day in court. She had to be that kind of thorough, and I think she did have to put us through doing it to an extent. And what I really appreciated about the process, and that was characterized, more to your question, by a series of tapings, a table read, a chemistry read as well, Skype. The thing I really appreciated about the process was the phone call at the end to say, are you sure you want to take on this responsibility, and do you realize what the greater purpose of this film is? You're not just doing a movie, I'm not hiring you as an actor to be in my movie, it's more than that. And I really appreciated that, and I think it speaks to just how special Kathryn is, because I think it also reveals more about her philosophy as a creative. She's not just looking to create a piece of entertainment. She's not actually just looking to create something that moves you. She's looking to create real social change. Really impact people in a positive way, and I love her, basically. I just think she's amazing.
Did I see a question at the very back? No. Oh, yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I guess you guys kind of just touched on it, but you guys create this type of work to prevent these types of circumstances from happening again. But it's obvious that history is repeating itself in 2017. So just curious to find out if you guys had any type of conflict in your conscience while you guys were just within these roles.
I think the key word here to kind of remove out of there is the prevention. I think that the movies definitely have its place in all of this, but unfortunately, definitely not that. But I do think what it can do, it has the power to break the ice in conversation. We're all from different environments, we have different backgrounds, and we've been brought into one room in which for a few hours you have to watch an experience and you can no longer escape from it because it's on a big screen and you're in the dark. And I think something about that, it creates a conversation that can lead towards some form of change. And I feel like every time I've watched a movie that kind of has a big point on social commentary, it allows me to have that conversation with others, and it allows me to think and reflect. And I think that for me, consciously, I felt that this was something important to do. I think we've all separately gone for roles and done things that have brought us to great lengths, but at the end of the day, there's also a purpose, and a great opportunity within purpose is working with a great director, and at the same time being a part of a story that is fundamentally really, really important for people to see right now.
If I could jump in as well, last night we did another one of these, and there was a law enforcement officer in the audience that watched the film. And at the end of the movie, she came up to me and she actually thanked me and said that, I'm very happy that you showed all sides of law enforcement, not just what we see on the news. What I told her was that I was happy to be a part of a film that also showed all sides of the victim's process, because a lot of times, what we see on the news is just a mugshot and a criminal history, and that's it. And then we have various people trying to paint the picture of who this person might have been, to either justify what happened or not. And then we look at the police officer as just a stormtrooper of some sort, who is just, one side is bad, one side is good, and people are picking who's bad and who's good. And I feel like the one thing that this film does is it shows humanity on both sides. So that we can actually have a conversation and not talk at each other, but with each other, and figure out how, okay, this is where we were in 1967. This is where we are in 2017. How do we prevent that so that the next 50 years, our kids and our grandkids don't have to relive this? And to me, that's the responsibility of art, and us as artists, is let's open up the table for a real conversation. Sometimes it's not comfortable. It's not a comfortable conversation. But it's a conversation that has to be had so that we together can find a solution. Because it's not just going to be black people that find a solution, or white people, or law enforcement, or the community. It has to be everybody coming together, talking it out, and figuring it out.
I think if I'm very cheeky, I can squeeze in just one last question. There's a man in the middle. Oh no, a woman, sorry. It's very dark up there, I do apologise.
I was just wondering, because of the real people that it's based on, particularly Will and John, did you guys, especially Will, did you guys able to meet that man or is he hiding? And John as well, were you able to talk to him and what you guys think?
I don't actually know the whereabouts of the one character who is kind of partly responsible for Philip Krause. There are two other individuals who I'm told influenced the construction of that character. I haven't met the individual who is still alive, and I don't know where he is or quite what he's doing, which is to be honest, quite worrying for everybody, I think, truthfully, and unacceptable.
I got to have a conversation with my character, Melvin, actually a few weeks prior to shooting, and we had a good lengthy conversation. I didn't want to just go in and say, tell me about what happened at the motel. So we got to know each other, we started talking about just his childhood, his upbringing, his love for the community, and I got a good understanding about the kind of man that he is. And then we started to get into the nitty-gritty detail. He was very open and understood the filmmaking process, so it was always available to me. And so yeah, he actually really enjoyed the movie and said it was a great opportunity for his side of the story to be told. So I'm happy about that, because I could have done it the other way, love, but that's not the situation.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our guest, Poulter and Boyega.